Hi, and welcome to Stamp with Jini. Today I'm going to share with you this lovely little card that I created with the Charming Day stamp set in my Stampin Blends. So let me set this aside and I'll show you how to get started. I'm going to start with the stamping for this project, and so I'm going to ink up my flower image here. And I am going to stamp it onto my cardstock. There we go, and then I'm going to ink up the sentiment and stamp it right here in the top left-hand corner like so. I've got my stamping done for my focal point, and I'm going to bring in my little leaf image here and simply stamp it down in the bottom right left-hand corner. And I'm finished with my stamping and I'm ready to color. So I'm going to bring my Stampin Blends in here, and I'm going to start with my inside panel. I'm going to add some color here onto my leaves just quickly and easily. I'm not going to color the entire shape in because I want it to be lighter. And then I'm going to bring in the light old olive and finish that up just quickly, giving it kind of a washed look like the Sweet has in its paper. Now that I have the inside panel done, I'm going to bring in my focal point. I'm going to start with the leaves again, and this time I'm going to start with the light mossy metal, and I'm going to do the same kind of technique, and I'm going to bring in the dark. Add some there, and then I'm going to bring in the light and blend them all together like so. Next I'm going to bring in my light here and show you the difference starting from light to dark. It really depends on how you like to color as to which way you can start. I've got my light laid in there, and I'm going to bring in my dark. And I'm going to lay in some of that color, like so. And of course you can use the larger end if you would like to kind of add some color there. And then I'm going to come back and I am going to blend. So whether you start with light or dark, that's up to you. So let's go ahead and finish coloring these petals. And of course, if you've gone out of the lines, you can bring your color lifter in here and kind of push that color back into the lines simply by adding some color lifter and then allowing it to dry. There we go. And of course you can use your color lifter to lift some of the color off of these petals if you would like also. Just touching here and there, and of course pushing that color back in until you're happy. I've got my petals done, and I'm going to start on my flowers. I'm going to bring in my Calypso Coral first, and I'm going to work on this back flower. I'm going to start with my darker color, adding a little bit of color here and there. Then bring in my light and add some more layers. And finally I'm going to bring in my dark petal pink and add a little more color. There we go. Next I'm going to start with my light petal pink on this big flower here and add some color here and there. And then I'm going to bring in my dark petal pink and add some more color. And as you can see, I'm just moving quickly, adding the color randomly. And finally, I'm going to bring in my light Calypso Coral, and I'm going to add just a touch of color here and there on my petals to add some depth. And I can bring that dark back in and blend. So there we go. I've got my focal point done and we're ready to assemble. So I'm going to start with my card base here, and I'm going to fold it on the score line. And then I'm going to bring in my Mossy Meadow layer here, and I'm going to adhere that to the card front. I'm going to bring in this beautiful piece of Designer Series paper and adhere that down next. And then I'm going to adhere my layer to my strip of Mossy Meadow. And my focal point to the mat. I'm going to flip this over and add some dimensionals to the back. This is a big panel, so I'm going to add a couple extra. And then I'm going to come back to this strip now that it's dry and adhere it to my card front. You can use your grid paper, but I'm placing that right in the center. I'm going to remove my backings and add this to the card front. I'm going to add it right here in the center like so. And I've got this lovely little insert for the inside of my card. I can stamp it with the sentiment now. Let's see, I'm going to turn that so that it's up in the top left corner like so, and adhere if you'd like, or you can set it inside for later when you're ready to send. So there you go, a beautiful card using our Charming Day stamp set in our Stampin Blends. And of course, if you'd like any of these products, feel free to stop by my online store. You can get there from my blog, Stamp with Jini. Thanks for joining me.